Hey y'all, it is May the 4th at 2020. Thank you for joining me. We're all up in the garden. I'm sitting here all Indian style. I just did a little bit of, you know, daily maintenance. Watered some of the plants. Haven't watered some of the other plants, and I'm taking care of that. I'm finishing up actually right now. I've been kind of doing it off and on for a couple of hours. Alright, it's just devastating. It's so beautiful. Right, all this stuff, very blessed, and you know stuff's going real great up until now. All right, I wanted to holler at y'all about some deep stuff while we just take a few minutes out here in the garden. I want to talk to you about the change that's happening right now. A lot of people probably wouldn't understand what's coming down the pike, and I don't know exactly for sure, but I'll tell you there is definitely a change going on right now. You might be familiar with some videos that have come out recently from big old farmers and stuff, and they got all these crops that are rotting and stuff, and then they may have to kill their beef, and they may have to kill their porks, and they may have to do all these things, and they've been dumping all this milk down the drain, and meanwhile people are clamoring for food items, right? You might think that doesn't make sense to you. Well, there's a big complicated, as I've talked about, a food chain supply. And in fact, the food that usually gets to your tummy and stuff before it gets all on your plate, that actually goes through what, 3, 4, sometimes 5 different people before you get it. Right? It's like a delicate and complicated food chain supply that takes place. Like it or not, that is what's been going down in America, pretty much all over the place since for a long time. A lot of people, to include myself, haven't exactly been pleased with the idea of macro agriculture, very big agriculture, big ag and stuff. And for years and years now, people have been talking about that. They don't like it, right? And they don't like all the detriments of the big agriculture. Like it or not, that's what's been keeping people from starving, all right, for quite some time now, and it's been set up that way to where we have to depend on that sort of stuff, all right? People don't like that. What I gotta explain is, okay, the moral of the story for today is that as a farmer slash gardener, as an overseer of plants, you start to realize that to work with them, it's a lot like children in a sense. And like that, you have to nurture them and take care of them to a certain extent for them to grow. You can leave them to do what they do, and they'll soak it all in, and they'll do just fine typically, just like children. But you do have to guide them. For example, a lot of my plants look real nice right now, right? And that's because I take care of them. Like sometimes they'll have dead leaves or something that I have to get off. Dead leaves are no good, all right? And you should probably try to get them off, right? And also crowding your plants, if they're all wet, that'll lead to problems. And there's all sort of different things that lead to problems. Pests could come, and too many pests could come for whatever reasons, and that'll lead to problems, right? Here's the thing, the way big agriculture works, the way it has to work, is that, plants are taken care of very generally in big, broad strokes. And that will include pesticides. Even in organic farming, in these big farms, even if you have organic pesticides, it's still going to take pesticides. Meanwhile, if you have a smaller garden, or if you have fewer plants, you'll note that throughout trial and error, and some plants die, and that's just terrible, but it's a fact of life. And through trial and error, you'll realize that pesticides aren't even exactly the way to go. That's a plan B or a plan C, typically. And typically you try to go with the least intrusive pesticides that you can, be like soap and water and stuff like that, right? In big agriculture, they need all sort of pesticides. The reason is because they don't have time to pick off the dead leaves. They don't have time to concentrate on one plant specifically and stuff. When you're dealing with hundreds, even thousands of plants, you absolutely don't have time for that. And you'll notice that you're a lot more susceptible to disease overcoming, and that might be a little reminiscent to this COVID corona thing that we got going right now. You'll notice that if you don't pay attention to each and every plant specifically, the more and more opportunity for disease to just sweep over all your plants, especially if they're too crowded, for example, and they get out in the rain and they're touching each other. The disease will pass back and forth and may even float in the air, dude. You gotta give them some sort of space. You gotta give them some sort of, you gotta nurture them. Right? That all being said, I want to cut this video short, but I want to say what we're realizing is the amount of plants. I mean, really in a practical sense, when you're taking care of plants, the amount of plants that you can actually take care of before you're going to have to resort to things such as pesticides, such as, in fact, sometimes synthetic fertilizers and stuff like that. You do so in order to have a big old farm. You do that in order to have enough profit to where you can survive and perhaps even thrive and send your kids to college or whatever BS that you're trying to do. Right? I gotta say right now, while I'm figuring out just how many plants that I can oversee with just a minimal amount of, intervention, as far as the harsh stuff, as far as pesticides and this and that, I'm fixing to find out how many of these here plants that I can do and take care of that in a minimalistic sense, right? And what I can promise you is that whatever is the number, I don't know what's the number. It could be 100, could be 150. I'm not sure what's the number. It's definitely going to take figuring and trial and error. Whatever's the number, that will not be enough money to survive off of. I guarantee it. Especially in these times, it is not going to be ever. So to look at big old farmers and mass agriculture and people and say, oh man, they use these pesticides, oh, they're poisoning us. You know what? It's kind of our fault in a sense. And you know what? The only one that's going to change that is the small people. The small people realizing, oh man, we do have to garden, and then figuring out how many plants they could possibly take care of in a responsible sense, in a very organic sense, in a very gentle sense, in order to actually think about the food that we eat in a very careful and scientific manner, right, for the best possible outcome. That will not be enough money to live off of. So the solution obviously is the people who have to do this. You can't put the onus on these big farmers. They're taking huge hits right now, and some of them are gonna have to close their doors pretty dang soon. Some of them already have, right? People are going to have a shortage of food this year regardless of how good anything goes. Okay, the only people who are going to change this are people who, number one, have it in them to be able to nurture plants like this, have it in them to be able to trial and error stuff and figure stuff out. Number two, those people are also going to have essential, quote, essential jobs. What an essential job is a job that pays your damn bills and nothing less. Right? That is essential. Everybody's jobs are essential out there. You need to have a job and do this at the same time. That might seem like burning the candle at both ends, and in a sense it is, all right? But if you remain calm and collected and don't have no fear, you know what I'm saying, instead of have faith, we're going to go into these disastrous and destructive times while also having all sort of opportunity and all sort of blessings from God and stuff. You're seeing it right here, right? Anyways, that's about enough for today. It is May the 4th, 2020. And certainly the Communist Chinese government would not want to have you doing this or even thinking about this sort of stuff right now. All right? They want you dead in the ground. And I don't mean maybe. It's May the 4th, 2020. I'll holler at y'all a little bit later.